Welcome everyone back to Outward. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys every single spawnable weapon that is currently in the game. So this will include weapons that you currently cannot get, ones that are for devs to test with tools and stuff like that, and others just for future content. But a majority of them are ones that you can actually get in the game right now. So we're going to start with axes, hatchets, and maces. Our first one is the living wood axe. There's the damage, as you see the stats on them. And they pull it out here, and that is what it looks like right there. Nothing too fancy, got some roots coming off of it, kind of funny looking. Alright, the next one we have is the Brutal Axe, which is just very basic. Looks like a beginner's one, nothing too fancy about that. Now this one is currently not in game yet to my knowledge, otherwise it would be a picture there. But it does have stats to it, you guys can see the damage on it and stuff like that. And it's just one that, you know, it's just slightly invisible there, a little transparent. Next we had the Fang Axe. Standard Hatchet. Very, very cool, you know, standard hatchet. Here's the Horror Axe. This is probably one of my favorite axes in the game currently. Inflicts extreme poison on enemies. Pretty nice. Then we have the Iron Axe. The Marble. Marble looks pretty cool. I like the detail right there at the tip of it. Pretty nice looking. Here's the next one. This one's got a little lightning effect to it. Here's the Sunfall Axe, which this one inflicts burning on enemies. Kind of neat. Looks pretty cool looking. Czar Axe right there. Nothing too special, just the damage is actually fairly good. 57, I think that's a pretty good number to be at. And here's the next one. Not even gonna try to pronounce that one, but it inflicts extreme bleeding on enemies. Then we have a few hammers. I'll equip one and drop the other one because they are just the same exact thing. One's from a quest. Then we have the Brutal Club. Looks a little intimidating. The stats not too good though. The Fang Club inflicts bleeding damage on enemies. Looks really bad as well. The Giant Iron Key, because this is a weapon for some reason. Then we have the Gold Lich Mace. Looks pretty neat. I really like that red right there. That red look makes it look really, really cool. And the durability is 500. That seems pretty good too. We have the Iron Mace. The Jade Mace. That green emerald is so nice looking. We have the Marble Morning Star, which the Marble Morning Star looks really nice. I really like how it's looking. I actually have yet to use that one. Then we have the Fire Poker. Let's put this one on. One of my favorite ones as well, just because it's so unique looking. Obsidian Mace. Inflicts burning on enemies. Here's another one. That one also has a lightning effect on it, pretty neat. Primitive Club, this will be very basic, nothing too crazy about that. Next is the Sky Crown Mace, put this on. And this one doesn't have anything special to it, it just has like a nice little quote under it, you guys can read that if you want to. Looks pretty cool looking though. And then we have the Tar Star Mace, and there it is right there. There's your stats on that, 70 damage. So those are the maces, the clubs, the hatchets, the axes. Next guys, we're actually going to be going through all the swords. So let me go to our backpack here. Alright guys, so we have a lot of swords and great swords to go through, so we're going to start with the first one, which currently is not in the game. It's basically just a ghost sword though, and there it is right there. It's a little hard to see, but it is pretty cool looking. I'm sure it'll be a very cool item in the future if they keep it the way it looks. Next we have the Assassin's Sword, and there's the stats on that right there. Inflicts slowdown and bleeding on enemies, pretty neat. Next is one of my favorite, which is the Brand Sword. Inflicts chill and pain on enemies, increasing the frost and physical damage they take. And look how nice that looks. That's by far one of the best looking swords in the game, I personally think. Next is the Fang Sword. Inflicts bleeding on enemies. Pretty basic looking though. The Gold Lynch Sword. Equip that one. Again, pretty nice looking. It's very detailed anyway by the looks of it. Stats are not too well though. We have a basic Iron Sword. The Marble. Marble doesn't look like a sword. It's just a big square. It's kind of weird. Old Legion Gladius. Looks pretty cool. I actually like to look at this one too. There's the stats on that one. Now this next one I believe is the one that's invisible. I think. Yeah, it's invisible, but there's the stats on it. This is probably one that'll be in the game at some point in the future. I'm sure it won't be called that either. It's just interesting. Not sure why it's invisible. Because here it is again right here. Here's the actual sword. There's that one. Then here's the Wolf Sword again, one of my favorite swords in the game. Looks so good. It's very bright, but it really stands out. And that sword that emits a blade of energy, which is both indestructible and luminous. Drop that. You have your standard sword. Then we have the strange rusted sword. Look at that. How cool is that looking? Does that look familiar, guys? Because it should. And then we have the Tassar sword, 54 damage. The wolf sword. The whole wolf set just looks really nice, to be honest with you, I think. The assassin claymore. So I'm going to start getting into the claymores now. Inflict slowdown and bleed on damage or bleed on enemies. The Fang Greatsword. Same thing, inflicts bleeding on enemies. There's this one. This one looks super, super nice. Again, let's look at the front of that one. Look how that is pretty cool looking. Have that guy right there. There's the stats on there. 39. The Iron Claymore is pretty basic. Marble Claymore. Again, this whole square thing, I don't understand how that works as an actual sword. It doesn't even look sharp. Palladium Claymore. Looks, again, pretty nice. I really like that right there. That detail in the crescent looks really cool. Pathfinder. Very just rusted out. Inflicts vulnerability to all non-physical elements on enemies. Now, these two look like the same. I know they do, but they're actually not. You can see right now that there's a stat difference. They do look exactly the same, though. So there's that one right there. I should just do this one next. Exactly. Looks exactly the same, just the stats are different on it. That's all it is. Inflicts pain on enemies. This one is pretty neat looking. Looks like a big scimitar. The Royal Great Capesh. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Star Child Claymore, by far one of my favorite claymores in the game. I did mention this one in a previous video. This looks so, so good. There's the damage isn't that well, though. Maybe the Thorny Claymore. The Star Claymore, which does 76 damage. Looks pretty nice looking as well. And then we have the Zagus Saw. Immense man-cutting saw of the bandit Lord Zagus. Inflicts pain on enemies. And there's what that looks like. Pretty blocky looking, if you ask me. I actually really don't like that one either. So now we're on to the Greataxes, the Great Maces, and stuff like that. The Warhammers, all the really big, big weapons. So the first one we have is this one right here. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but it inflicts extreme bleeding on enemies. And there's how it looks right there. So I'm going to pull it out there. There we go. It's a little bit better. That's what it looks like right there. Then we have the Brutal Great Axe. Just a pretty standard one. Crescent Great Axe inflicts vulnerability to all non-physical elements on enemies. Doesn't really look anything special though. The Fang, which is the inflicts bleeding on enemies. Then we have the Felling Great Axe, which just looks like a normal axe to me, but I guess that's a great axe. Next is the Giant Kind Great Axe. Again, pretty basic looking. The Iron Great Axe. Here's the marble right here, 48 damage. Again, let's look at that detail. I just love it. The marble set looks really good too. Palladium Great Axe, the damage is 30 on it. Looks pretty interesting with the double blade on it. The Tassar was doing 79 damage. Looks pretty nice. And here is the World Edge Great Axe. Probably one of the best looking ones so far. Drop that. We got a Brutal Great Mace. Fang Great Club. Inflicts bleeding on enemies. Got a skull for the weapon. That's pretty interesting. Iron Great Hammer. The Manicore Great Mace. Inflicts extreme poison on enemies. Mantis Great Pick. It inflicts pain on enemies. Looks pretty intimidating looking. The Marble Great Hammer, this will probably look really nice. It actually doesn't look that good. I like the actual white part right there, but the rest of it looks really bad. That's the first marble piece I actually haven't liked. You got the Mining Pick. Obsidian Great Mace. And there's that. Inflicts burning on enemies. And that just looks, so cool. Wow, that just looks really, really cool. And drop that. And here's the Great Hammer, Palladium Great Hammer. Looks actually kind of cool. I like that. It glows right there. That's pretty neat. And here's our next one, the Pillar Great Hammer, which is probably the biggest one out of them all size-wise. It's just ungodly big. And this one, Pyrite Great Hammer, I'm sure I'm butchering some of these words again, inflicts confusion on enemies. I actually like that one a lot too. The Tassar Great Hammer, there's that, kind of basic looking. And then we have the Wolf Great Hammer, which looks pretty neat. The whole wolf set just looks so good. Next, guys, is all like the really long melee weapons, like your spears, your tridents, halberds, and stuff like that. The first one is the Brutal Spear with 29 damage, very basic, good intro I want to start with. The beast golem inflicts bleeding on enemies, and there's that one right there. I'm gonna do my best to try getting the shot so you guys can see them as we're going through, because it's gonna be kind of hard with how big some of these are gonna be. There's the cleaver. This one, I actually really like this one too, because just the cloth that's hanging off of it. Here's the crescent scythe. It inflicts vulnerability to all non-physical elements on enemies. And here's the dream halberd right here. This one actually looks, I really like that. That is really cool. Drop that one. Here with the fang halberd, which inflicts bleeding on enemies like the rest of the fang ones seem to do. Next is the giant Kang halberd. Looks kind of standard, nothing special to it. The iron one, which is very standard, nothing to it. The marble, which is the marble one looks. The marble one, I actually like the look of the marble one. Looks really clean. I don't know why that one looks so good to me. Here's the palladium halberd. Interesting little design on it. Next is your quarterstaff, which all of you probably have had some point in the game. This is the one halberd that I asked all the time, where'd you get this from, Mexis? I got it from a dungeon. I don't really name the dungeon. I'm sure someone down below the comment section can tell you where, but if you want this, it's just from a dungeon. So our next one inflicts confusion on enemies. Looks kind of interesting. The Tsar looks very just basic, actually. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this one, but it does 16 damage and it looks awful. The Fang Trident, which inflicts bleeding on enemies. I kind of like it. I wish it actually looked better, but I like the idea of the trident. The Fishing Harpoon, which all of us have had at some point. The Iron Spear. Next is the Marble Spear. It's a little hard to see. Doesn't look too bad though. I really like the pole that's white. It's kind of neat. Next is the Old Legion Spirit, coming in 29 damage. Very basic looking. I'm not going to X on my inventory. It's just a tip at the end. This one actually looks really nice. I like the little ribbon hanging off of it. That's pretty cool. I really haven't seen most of these either. Oh, what is this? Inflicts poison on enemies. That looks pretty neat, actually. I really like the look of that. Next is the Pitchfork, which you guys can get from basically anywhere, any city. The Thorny Spear, which looks really good with the pulsating purple for going from light to dark. Not even gonna try to pronounce this one, but it does 16 damage. It doesn't really look all that impressive to me. We have another Trident. Looks a little bit better than the first one. Tsar Spear at 70 damage. Which I actually don't like that one either, to be honest with you. And then we have the Whirling Spear. And here is what that looks like. And now it's time to get into the very few staffs that are in the game right now. So we have the Mage's Poking Stick, which does 13 damage. And I'm going to try to get in the darkness here, because a lot of these they glow pretty well. They look a lot better in the dark. So there's that one right there. Next we have the Compass Wood Staff, which does a mana cost of minus 20%. That's pretty neat. Doesn't really look that good though, but it's a good stat to have on it. The Jade Staff, which also has the mana cost of minus 20%, and here's what that looks like. This one looks really nice. I really actually like that one. Next is the Master Staff, which just looks very basic. There's the stats on that for you. And then we have the Rotwood Staff with the mana cost of minus 25%. Looks really nice too with the blue on the black. That looks super clean. Scholard Staff with a mana cost of minus 15. Looks kind of the same as the first one. And then we have this staff I'm going to try to pronounce, which also looks super cool. And there's the stats on that one for you guys. Alright guys, so now we're going to do daggers, chakrams, pistols, and bows. So here is our first dagger that inflicts bleeding, the broad dagger. And here's what that looks like. Let me go over here so you guys can see a little better. Let me get the sun. Might help a little bit. Kind of bulky looking. That's what that one looks like. Next is the Manicore Dagger. It kind of reminds me of like the Dragon Dagger from RuneScape, honestly. Then we have the Red Lady's Dagger right there. This one looks really nice. Actually, I really like that one. So our next one, Dagger with a Nasty Edge. This looks like a big nail, to be honest, which is pretty much what it is. Then we have the Shiv Dagger. And we have the Glowstone Dagger, which I really like because I just like how it looks. By far one of my favorites. Now we're going to be on the chakrams. So this one I believe is the fidget spinner. Yeah, that one's the fidget spinner right there. Then we see the normal one. Should get, a better angle. There we go. Let's go right here. Probably a little better for you guys to be able to see these. Drop that one. There we have the frozen one. Gets a nice little effect off on it. Here's our next one. That's 31 damage. Then we have the mysterious one, which is the pizza. It's a pretty funny one if you can get your hands on. It's kind of funny. This one does 37. Ooh, it glows in the middle too. It's kind of cool, like a little LED ring in it. And this one is the thorn one, which does inflict bleed damage on enemies. This is definitely a good one to have if you can get your hands on it. So there is the bone pistol right there, and there's the stats on it right there. It's the first one. Looks kind of neat. Next we have the cannon pistol, which does 59 damage. Then we have the Chimera pistol, which is 103 damage. Powerful gun that inflicts vulnerability to fire, frost, lightning, decay, and eternal damage. And it looks really nice looking too. Then we have your standard flintlock pistol. The obsidian pistol. Gun that needs the fire/reload skill to shoot a fiery bullet inflicting burning on enemies. That's what that looks like. I really like the little charred parts going around the gun. Actually makes it look really unique. And last but not least, the ordnance pistol, which fires superior bullets doing 86 damage a shot. So now it's time to go on to the bows. And here is our first bow, the coral horn bow, which I made a video on. Then we have the horror bow, which is probably the best bow in the game right now because it inflicts poison damage onto enemies, and this looks really nice. You have your recurve bow, which slows down enemies, so equip that one. This looks pretty standard, nothing really special to it. We have the simple bow, and then we have the war bow. The war bow is a pretty good bow to have if you're just starting the game, by the way. It'd be a good one to buy if you can afford it. It costs 1,000 silver in any shop. And that bow will inflict confusion onto enemies. Alright guys, so that is every current weapon in the game that I was able to find. So let me know down below in the comment section what was your favorite and what do you think of all this. Also, if I did happen to miss a weapon, because there is a lot in this game, it's possible it did happen, let me know down below in the comment section which one I missed as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see all you guys in the next video.